Allah Akbar.
But also to see that Americans are taking responsibility for bad government.
Besides getting support from people and communities, the International Museum of Muslim Cultures is also supported by the city.
The surprising part of this entire story of how the museum came into existence is that so many different organizations are supporting it. There are Christian organizations supporting it, there are interfaith organizations supporting it, and the city, the local city is also supporting it.
The city of Jackson, we're now in a building owned by the city where we don't pay any expenses. The city also contributed funds for us to bring this Timbuktu exhibit. We also got funding from the legislature. We also got funding from the county government, in addition to businesses and so forth.
When people come in, what's their first reaction?
Well, they can't believe that they're still in Jackson. That's one thing, Mississippi. You know, we've just gotten I say 99.9% of our visitors are just overwhelmed with what they see. We're just really, as I said, it's just such a blessed project because it's a, how does it say it, an idea whose time has come.
Moral and physical support is one thing, but to run such a huge project, how does one get the financial backing it needs?
What we're doing now is that we're in the process of raising funds to actually replicate an authentic exhibit like this. You know, because Mississippi has contributed so much, we want to keep this as a permanent exhibit here, but we want to really replicate this Timbuktu exhibit and take it across the country. And we've begun to establish partners. We're in dialogue with the Smithsonian Institute, the Schaumburg Center, that are looking at the possibility of hosting a traveling component of this Timbuktu exhibit.
Abdul Rasheed, one of the co-founders of the museum and a musician, feels that there is a lot more that needs to be done.
And looking back at it now, how far do you think you guys have traveled? In the sense that taking this information that you guys have gathered over the years and now you're disseminating it to people nationally and internationally.
It gives me a good feeling, but also a sad feeling, you know, because I truly believe that we can do a lot better. I truly believe that somehow we're not really communicating enough to the people the great idea that this museum stands for.
And that is?
That is showing that there was life prior to coming here as Africans. A lot of people says that there was kings and queens and what have you, and people were literate at that particular time, but we had no proof. Now we have proof. We got books that was right here in this museum that came from Mali and started at the 11th, 12th century. So therefore, that was long before America was thought of. And there was books of travels, those books of medicines and books of different things that were at this particular time from West Africa. So that gives me a great feeling that our whole plight was not slavery, that we were in fact brought here as intelligent beings and made slaves out of.
And do you think that that in a way will help heal the wounds?
Actually, knowledge helps. Any knowledge helps. Any good knowledge helps. It's like a medicine.
Okolo Rasheed says that for the world to come together, we first have to learn to trust one another.
When Muslims outside of the US talk to me, they have a lot of anger towards America because of the government's policy.
Okay.
People have always tried to explain that you can't mix the government and the people. To address that, a lot of the people in the Muslim world would have no idea about who is Okolo Rasheed, or that Okolo Rasheed is running an Islamic museum in Jackson, Mississippi. So when they think about America, I don't think that they know that you exist. So as an American Muslim, what would be your message to the rest of the Muslim world?
That's an interesting question. I think that one thing and one way of approaching that is that, yes, it's programs like this that would help the Muslim world see the other face of America. I think there's a real need for that. But there's another really critically important part too, that even though the Muslim world look at the American government, and yes, the American government are doing these, really unacceptable things by many of the American people, is that the Americans have within their culture tradition the responsibility. They accept the responsibility for their government. And historically, they've been moving toward changing their government to become the government that reflects the higher values of America. And I think that more than anything, Barack Obama's election is a manifestation of that. The civil rights movement, and that's what but this to me is Islam. This kind of engagement, taking responsibility for yourself, but also your government, and working strategically and systematically, to bring about, the better government, the good government. That's in America's tradition. And I think that Americans, for the Muslim world to see both sides of it, for them to be able to see that there are good people that's doing good things like, what we're doing here, but also to see that Americans are taking responsibility for bad government. And they've been working over the years to bring about good government, and that's Islam. And Barack Obama is an example of that. And I think that that's something that Muslims really can learn from America, because the same thing that's happening, it's governments that are causing the problems, not only here, but over in the Islamic world as well. But I do not see a consistent, even though I see great reformists and revolutionaries that have been, within Islamic lands, but many of them have been killed, imprisoned, and that there's not enough. There is always, we have to know that there is always resistance, whether it's subtle and not so, but it's not enough. The majority of the Muslim world within the various different nations are not taking enough responsibility for bad government and removing bad government. Because I think, it's easier to keep pointing a finger at America, but there are also things that's more important for changing the government in their own lands.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the Christians, the Jews, and the Sabians all will have their reward from the Lord. But those who believe and do the right thing